Welcome to the Compact Disasters podcast from compactdisasters.com, the show where we explore natural and human-made disasters from around the world. This is episode 44, the 1966 Aberfan Disaster. Aberfan is a small village in South Wales, tucked into a valley beneath the mountains near Merthyr Tydfil. For generations, coal had been its heartbeat, providing jobs and shaping the community's identity. The hills surrounding the village were scarred with spoiled tips, towering mounds of loose rock, shale, and waste pulled from deep underground. They were an accepted part of life in mining areas, looming above houses and schools like silent sentinels. By the mid-1960s, one of these mounds, tip number 7, stood above Aberfan. This wasn't just any tip. It had been piled on top of underground springs, a decision that would prove catastrophic. The water constantly seeped through the loose material, making it unstable. Villagers had raised concerns for years, warning that it was unsafe. But their voices were brushed aside by the National Coal Board, a powerful nationalised industry more focused on output than on heeding local fears. In October 1966, heavy rains lashed South Wales for days. Tip number 7, already saturated, absorbed even more water. It was becoming less like a pile of rock and more like a ticking time bomb. On the morning of the 21st of October, life in Aberfan went on as usual. Children walked to Pantglas Junior School. Parents headed to work. Shopkeepers opened their doors. No one realized that high above the village, the mountain was about to give way. At 9:15 a.m., a deep rumble shattered the morning calm. Some described it as sounding like thunder, others like a low-flying jet. In moments, an estimated 40,000 cubic meters of liquefied coal waste broke free. The slurry surged down the hillside at nearly 30 miles per hour, tearing across fields and straight into the village. The first homes on Moy Road were smashed to pieces. Then the black tide hit Pantglas Junior School. Inside, the children had just started their lessons. The avalanche of coal waste smashed through the walls, burying classrooms in seconds. Survivors later recalled the darkness, the crushing pressure, the sudden silence after the roar. When the slide stopped, it had left a path of destruction almost 700 feet long. Dust hung in the air. The smell of coal waste was overpowering. And then came the cries, parents screaming for their children, rescuers calling for shovels, miners rushing from the colliery to dig with bare hands. The human cost was devastating. 144 people were killed, 116 of them children. Entire classrooms were gone. Some families lost every child they had. In a village of just a few thousand, there wasn't a single street untouched by loss. Acts of bravery stood out amid the chaos. Teachers shielding pupils from the onrush. Neighbours clawing at the sludge to reach trapped friends. Miners who had just come off night shifts, working through exhaustion to try to save lives. But the sheer weight of the slurry meant that in many cases, those pulled from the wreckage were already gone. News of the disaster spread quickly. Across Britain and beyond, there was shock and sorrow. Donations poured in, over £1.75 million in total, an extraordinary sum for the time. Volunteers arrived from all over, bringing equipment, medical aid and comfort to the grieving. Television brought the horror into living rooms nationwide. The sight of the shattered school, the rows of small coffins lined up for burial, these images seared themselves into the public memory. For weeks, it felt as though the entire country was in mourning. The government launched a tribunal of inquiry, led by Lord Justice Edmund Davies. It would hear evidence from 136 witnesses over 76 days. The findings were damning. The National Coal Board had shown what the report called bungling ineptitude and callous indifference to the dangers of tip stability. The risks of building tip number 7 over springs were well known. Engineers and local managers had been aware of the problems for years, and warnings from villagers and local councils had been ignored. 76 safety recommendations came out of the tribunal, but there was no justice for the people of Aberfan. No criminal charges were ever brought. No senior official faced trial. The NCB escaped prosecution entirely. Then came the insult on top of the injury. The NCB offered just £50 in compensation for each victim, later raised to £500 after public outrage. Worse still, the government took £150,000 from the Aberfan Disaster Fund, money donated by the public to help survivors, to help pay for the removal of other dangerous spoil tips in the area. That money was only repaid in 1997, without interest. For the survivors, the physical recovery of the village was only part of the story. The emotional wounds ran deep. Many lived with what we now call post-traumatic stress, flashbacks, nightmares, anxiety. But in the 1960s, mental health support was scarce. The knowledge that the disaster could have been prevented and that no one was held truly accountable only deepened the pain. One positive change was legislative. In 1969, the Mines and Quarries Tips Act introduced strict rules for the construction, inspection and maintenance of spoil tips. Across Britain, unstable tips were removed or reinforced. Geotechnical engineering became an essential part of mining operations, and perhaps most importantly, communities were given a stronger voice in raising safety concerns. Today, Aberfan remembers its lost children in the village cemetery, where neat rows of white arches mark their graves. A memorial garden now stands where Pantglas Junior School once stood. It is a place of quiet reflection, a contrast to the chaos that filled it that October morning. 8 days after the disaster, Queen Elizabeth II visited Aberfan. The delay became one of her most publicly acknowledged regrets. Later visits by members of the royal family and annual commemorations attended by dignitaries have ensured the story is never forgotten. Aberfan has been memorialised in poems, documentaries and drama. An episode of The Crown introduced the tragedy to a new generation. For historians, it remains a textbook example of industrial risk ignored until it was too late. For the people of Wales, it is a reminder of the human cost of negligence. The 50th anniversary in 2016 brought survivors, families and officials together to remember. By then, the lesson was clear. Aberfan was not just a Welsh tragedy, it was a warning for the world. When the people who live with industrial risks speak, their warnings must be heard. 144 lives were lost in Aberfan, most of them children who never had the chance to grow up. Their memory stands as a testament to the need for vigilance, compassion and accountability. The black mounds among the mountains near Merthyr have gone, but the story it left behind will remain as long as there are voices to tell it. I hope you enjoyed that episode of the Compact Disasters podcast from compactdisasters.com. If you did, why not leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts? And while you're there, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. If you would like to support us more directly, please consider buying us a coffee. Head on over to compacthistories.com/disaster coffee to see how. Also, please check out our other Compact podcasts. You will find them all at compacthistories.com. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.